Okay, so going back to the beginning, you get your pieces to decorate with, and I am one short on these as far as using, if I were to use one myself, but I have enough for the kids. We would have used the scissors, but I'm not going to tonight. So we have the sewing machine and we have the bobbins. And I don't remember what I was going to say. Guess what? I don't know. Oh, I know. Guess what? I remembered my water tonight. Aren't you proud of me? You don't have to send Paul. Okay, so for the sewing machine, I'm not going to use paint. I'm going to use Distress Stain instead, and I'm using black soot because I wanted that dullness for the last one. And I can make it shiny. So I'm just going to, rub over it. That's all you have to do with this stuff. Comes with a dauber on the end. And then you can just go back in and paint the parts that you want a different color. The other nice thing about using this is that you can still see where those lines were cut in it. So, yeah, I like using this. And if I really wanted to get in the corners good so there was no brown showing, I would use the paintbrush and do this edging part, but I'm not really that worried about it because it's going to be inside there and no one's going to really see it that closely. So as long as you're getting the general parts, I think it'll be fine. All right. So back to my gold. I'm going to put just a little bit out here. And I don't need very much for this next part because I'm going to be using a toothpick. Ooh, I got a big clump coming out here. Hang on. I'll get dried in the cap of it. I doubt it, but I'm thinking, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I really like the Fab Scrap brand, that and Maja, and so I may carry just those two brands. I really am not sure yet. I have 2 kits left, and if you stay through the whole night, there may be a special on the last 2. Okay, so I am using my toothpick, and I'm just going to go, and I have to take my glasses off for this, and you might see my head in the way, but I'm just going to go in where the lines are, and I'm using the pointed end of my toothpick, and I'm just highlighting so that those stand back out again. And the reason I'm using a toothpick is because I can actually go in the line some and get a nice, you'll see, get a nice line on it. Okay, so I'm going to go up into the other lines now. And again, I wouldn't worry about being too perfect on this because it's going to be inside the shadow box, but you don't want to make, a really uneven line either. So toothpicks work really great. You just have to continually load it though because it doesn't hold it very long. And you could probably use a gold pen too, or silver, or whatever color you wanted. But then you have to wait for this to completely dry, and I didn't want to have to do that, so I'm using a toothpick. And this part, I want it to look like a knob, so I'm going to actually color it. And I'm just going to use the toothpick to color it. You could easily use a fine brush on this too. I just don't want to feel like switching back and forth, so I'm just continuing with this. Okay, so I got that part done. Now I'm going to go back to the lines. And you don't want to push too hard because then, you know, you might get scraps of paper that come up. So you want to stay as much in that line as you can. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect because it's too hard to get those really fine lines perfect. But you want that illusion, so. And maybe if you're a better painter than I am. Actually, let me show you what it looks like with a fine brush so you can see. It's a little bit thicker line and harder to get in there. So let me show you. I'm going to hold this up. Okay, you can see here is where I did just with the toothpick, and this outer line is what I did with the brush just now. And to me, that's too thick of a line, and it's just not consistent. So that's why I like to use the toothpick. Be sure not to load your toothpick with too much paint, too, because it'll do the same thing as the brush will then. Oops, and I just slipped. So I'm just going to rub it out as best I can and move on. Now I am going to go to the fine detail brush because I want it a little bit thicker in where the wheel part would be. So I'm going to add a little bit thicker here. I'm using a really, really fine brush, as you can see. Really fine. And going back to my toothpick, and moving on to the other sections. Now this is where the bobbin part will be, so I'm actually going to use the same cream color that I used on the other bobbin across the top of that and the bottom of it. And then I will add thread, or you know, another color for thread. Oops. Okay. Okay. And back to the gold. And of course, you can paint this however you want. You know, if you want a plainer looking one, you could do that and just leave it with, you know, no accents, or, you know, it's your project, however you want to do it. This is just, I wanted it to kind of look a little bit like the old-fashioned singers, and they always had gold on them. So detail brush again. A little bit thicker part down here. Her surgery is in, well, it's the 23rd, so what is that, like 2 weeks? 2 weeks from tomorrow, I believe. So yeah, I leave in a week and a half. And the store will be closed for that month that I'm gone, guys. The only thing that will be available will be the new kit that Rhonda is introducing next week, because I can put that in a baggie and say, Paul, I'll send you the address. Just put it in a box and mail this for me. And he can do that. But, you know, as far as relying on him to do the other stuff, he's got his own work to do, and it's a little tougher. So, okay, so I am going to now take my finger and I'm just going to smudge across this bottom, because this is actually supposed to be like the base, I don't know what you call it, you know, the stand part. So I don't want it quite as, and I'm going to get that a little wet over here. Let's see if I can't spread that some more. There we go. Okay, so don't judge me because I'm not a perfect painter. I'm far from perfect, but that's what we have. So it kind of looks like that. And once it's in the shadow box, no one will really see it closely enough to notice my mistakes. All right, so we've got that, and now I need a color of thread. So I think I'm going to use silver for the thread color, just because it's shiny and will show nicely. So here we go. Paint that. It's not going to be real bright because it's going over black, so it'll take a couple of coats. Okay, that's got to set aside and dry now, and let's see how this is doing. Okay, so that's pretty dry, and I think I want to give it a second coat, so I'm going to go ahead and go in and do one more coat. I'm not worried about the edges so much as I don't want, you know, the paint on the sides to be lumpy. Okay. Here we go. Another napkin. Alright, so I can set my paints aside now. And like I said, if I'm one short of these, so I'll add my scissors later at another time. Alright, and I'm going to set these aside to dry. Give that another coat of silver before I totally go off. But let me clean up my mess here. My brush is cleaned up here. Too expensive not to take care of, so you want to make sure you rinse them. Okay. Put those aside. Oh, yeah, I'm going to need that one still. Let me tell one again. Okay, I'm going to give this one more quick coat of silver. I can get it better out of the cap, I think. Alrighty. Okay, now I'm going to let those dry thoroughly before we do anything further to them. So setting those aside, and we're going to go back to the dress form. Alright, so if you remember last time, I had made my measurements too short, so I added this lace on the bottom, which I really like. But we're going to attach this lace over it. And you get a yard of this in the kit. It's pre-dyed to whichever color. If you order the champagne kit, you get this in champagne. If you order the blue and brown kit, you get this kind of mocha, chocolatey, I don't know what you call it. It's brown. So I started cutting it because it would take me too long to show you on every single, to sit here and do every single strand. Move this aside again. But if you don't cut in between, it bunches. And you don't want that on your dress form. You want it to look really nice. So what I did was separated the pieces and cut out just this part. So as you can see here, where it's attached, I left it attached so you could see. And that's what we're going to do next. The sewing scissors. So I just cut it. And I knew from my last dress form that I needed 7. So I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just in case, because I may have to gather a little bit, and I would rather have too many and then be able to cut off. So, but my last one I used 7, I believe. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to cut a little bit here and cut that little center piece out so that it doesn't hang over. All right, and I am a perfectionist. I can't stand it when there's a little frays, so I got to cut that off. Okay. All right, and then I just go up right next to the line there and cut where it's attached. Now I've stopped at the line where the 3 dots show, but you could go all the way to the top if you wanted up here. It's totally up to you. On the last one I went all the way to the top, but on this one I wanted to do it just a little bit different because each time I make something I like to have a slight variation. So and that may or may not prove to be difficult. We'll see when I actually go to glue it. I think it'll be fine, but okay, now do not throw your little pieces like this away. And I'll show you in a minute why. Just set them aside. Okay, so on the ends, I wanted it to look nice and neat, as you can see here. So all I did was go in and cut, you know, well, you have to make this part look like the rest of it, so I cut that out. But then I just went in and, you know, trimmed around the leaves so it would look pretty. So let's see, what did I do at that end? Yep, I did that. Okay, so we're going to go up here. And on the ends, I actually went all the way up to the leaf, or to the flower, I mean. And so I didn't leave any of that dotted area because it wasn't a full thing. Okay, and then I just went in and cut around the leaves where I thought it needed it. So I've got that little piece, so I can set that aside. And see how this has kind of a half leaf here? And I'm going to actually cut that off. And like I said, this may end up being too long. We'll see once I start. I can always gather a little bit. But I'm going to start out this way. Okay, get rid of those little bits. And there's what we have. We've cut our lace and we've trimmed the edges so they look nice. Okay. All right. So let's get our dress form back up here. Now, you all know I do not use glue guns very often. However, if you remember from last class, we dyed this white leaf lace that comes in the kit. And I'm going to use it to attach, I'm going to use my glue gun to attach it to the inside of this. Although, hang on, there's something in there. Or maybe not. Okay, just looked like it was. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom because I'm going to be covering up that little area anyway. And I'm just going to put a little dab of glue right there. And that's the reason why I'm using the glue gun, because it will hold instantly. Okay, and then I'm just going to start wrapping, and I'm going to go up and then back down. And you can go as tight or as loose as you want. And I kind of want mine a medium so that I can come back down and it'll look nice. And it's kind of a, you know, you have to really pay attention to what you're doing, and it will twist on you, which is why we colored both sides last time. And there's no way to avoid that because it's such a small space. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. You could probably avoid it if you really have a ton of patience. I do not. Okay, I'm going to turn it a little bit so I can see what I'm doing now that I'm getting to the top. Okay, and go up as far as you can kind of reach because, you know, that part will show. And then just start winding it back down. so it's a loose wind. Okay, and when you get back down to the bottom, bring it around, and then use your glue gun and attach that side. Hang on, let me get this. Okay, so stick a little bit of glue on there. Be careful so you don't burn your fingers. And stick it on. And then you can, once you've got it stuck on, then you can just kind of play with it and, you know, make it come up or down or however you want it to be. Okay, so that's how I've got my ribbon. So it looks like there's a vine kind of climbing up the inside of the pole. Okay. Not all dress forms do. This one does because it's on a wooden stand. And that's what it's anchored to. So I'm looking for the right side, and this is the right side. So I'm going to start on this side and attach my lace. Now I'm going to go right at the edge of where my paper line is so I can cover up those cut marks that we made in order to make it fit. Okay, and I'm going to actually use the glue gun to just start it, not to complete it, but just to start it. And that will give it a good sticking point. Okay, and I'm starting right in the center and sticking that down. Okay, now I'm going to bring it down so that it's at the waist point. Okay, and now I'm going to take my glue, and this is, again, this is my Journey Glaze. It's my go-to glue, but you can use whatever you want. If you like using a glue gun, use a glue gun. I just don't like that it doesn't last. The hold doesn't last. So for me, liquid glues or other types of adhesives are what I prefer. Okay. I'm just going to kind of hold it on there for a second when you're using a liquid glue. And like I said, I'm going right along the line that we made for the waist. So moving on, I'll lay these out. And I am going to have to give just a slight gather here to keep it on the waistline. Okay. And for the sake of the class, I'm going to just stick a little bit of glue so I can keep moving. Otherwise, I personally would just wait for it to dry. I would just hold it. Okay, moving on. Okay, now you want to be gentle when you lay it on that part so you don't crush those front folds that we did. Okay, and again, I'm going to have to gather just a little bit. And put my glue down. Right along that waistline. And then I'm going to use my glue gun just so that we can keep moving. Make my little gathers. They're not going to be big gathers, just little. And that's where I'm sticking my glue from my glue gun, just because it'll hold the gather faster. Okay. And we're going to do another one right about there. Okay, and one right about there. And actually I'm going to go the other way because now we're starting in on the other direction, so I'm going to make my pleat the other direction. I love flappers. Kind of a flapper, I guess. Okay, and one more little gather right here, but I gotta add some glue at the waist first. Oh yes, that would be really, really cool. You should do that. Okay, so yes, 7 was, I was right, it was 7. Because you see I'm coming to the end here. And actually I'm going to gather it so that I can get 8. So I'm going to go back in real quick and cut at the 8 point. So just 1 second. Is that where I want it? Yeah. Okay, and this, you know, hang on to pieces like this, obviously, and you can use them on other things. Alone, that would make a cool bookmark if you cut out this side. All right, so back over here. Get this attached again because I was messing with it and pulled it off. Okay, stick it down into my liquid glue as well. Now again, I would not use this glue gun if it weren't for class. I would be holding it until it dried with the liquid glue. But that's just me. You do it however you want to do it. Okay, I'm going to turn it. Add that glue along here. Okay, and now I think I can just, no, still got to gather it a little bit more. I'm going to stick this down so I can figure out where to gather it. Okay, I think I'm going to back it up and make a bigger pleat back here because I don't want it to look different than the other side. I'm going to undo that one that I did, and I'm just pulling it. Okay, back it up just a little bit and make a couple of different size pleats. There's one. And that one. Okay, and I'm gonna just really work at sticking this down into that wet glue for a second. Make sure it's really sticking in there. And I'm kind of trying to show you, but it's kind of hard. This is what we have. And I'll put the camera at the other angle again later so you can see. But there's where we are. Okay, and this pleat right here needs to be redone. Okay, are you talking about the Journey Glaze? Her name is Christina Diet, and she is on Facebook. And her, let's see if I can find her card. Yep, here it is. Okay, it's Fun Stamper's Journey. Okay, and her website is christyblumenjourney.wordpress.com, or on Facebook. I mean, that's not listed on here, but it's just Christy's Bloomin' Journey, or yeah, Christy's Bloomin' Journey. And Christina Diet, that's her name. And that's where I get the glue from. Love, love, love that glue. And I want to say, yeah, it's $10 for a bottle this big, but I mean, it lasts quite a while. So, all right, so we're going to move on. And sorry, my stuff got all tangled up while I was moving around for the last 2 weeks. Okay, so I'm going to get this piece out, which is your vintage style embellishment, and it's let me see, I have a ruler here. It is, I should look on the website, but this is easier. It is almost 2.5 inches long. So it's a pretty big size piece. All right, so I'm going to wrap the brown first. And I'm going to take it and I'm just going to go, this I really am going to use the glue gun for because I'm not really even going to have to attach much of it, just here and there. And I'm going to put it right over the line where I started her dress, the lace for the bottom of the dress at. And that will cover up those glue marks and stuff that we did. And I'm putting the glue in the same place that I had it before for the pleats. So I'm just wrapping it around. Okay. Basically, all I'm doing there is just covering up those ugly glue marks because we didn't wait for it to dry and we used a glue gun. So I'm covering that up and making it look nice and neat. Okay. And whoop. Finish that off right there. All right. So that's all I did was wrap it around, glue it in just a couple of spots. Where'd my scissors go? There it is. Okay. And now I'm going to, that's another reason why I hate glue guns, is the glue strings. Okay. So I'm just going to cut that off. And I want this to be double layered so that I can put the blue down the center. So I'm just going to start kind of, you know, not in the middle, but not at the top of that other layer either. And we're just going to start again and wrap it. Okay. Only this time I'm only using glue at this point. So I'm going to stand this up. Sorry. And if it's somebody here that's trying to reach me, you're just going to have to wait a minute. Okay, there we go. And all I did was wrap it. I didn't glue it or anything. And I'm now going to attach it again. Just a tiny bit of glue. And pull it across there. Okay. And we're going to cut that. All right, so I still have lots of seam binding. You get 2.5 yards of each color. I still have a ton left, as you see. So you have enough for another project, along with extra laces and all of that good stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to attach it, excuse me, I'm going to move that out of the way, to this. And if you look on the back, let me see if I can get it to focus again real quick here. It has little loops. Okay, come on, focus, come back. You see that? So I'm going to string it through the end ones. So just going to twist it a little bit so I can get it through there. And actually I'm going to stick a little water on it too. Now there are 4 in the center and 2 on the end. So you could go, you know, in any of those, but I'm just going to do the end ones because I think that's all that's necessary. If I can ever get it through. My fingers are all full of glue. There we go. Oh, I'm a poet. I didn't know it. Okay, now I am going to recommend that you take your other end right away. Well, first let's just finish this. We're gonna, if you want to have tails hanging down, pull some of it through and then just, you know, knot it at that point. I don't think I want that on this one. I did that on the first one, but I don't think I want that on this one. But I did snag it, so I'm going to pull that through and then knot it and cut it off. So I'm just going to knot it. Thank you, Deb. Okay, so I'm going to knot it, really knot it twice, and then I'm going to cut that off. Okay, but don't throw that away because you can use that in flowers and stuff. You could, you know, all you have to do is knot it like a million times and you have a center for a flower. Okay, now I'm going to recommend that you take your other end. Don't glue it on, don't do anything. Take your other end and put it through because once you have it on here, it is almost impossible. I really learned this on the first one to get it through that loop. So I'm going to get it wet again. And stick it through the loop again on the opposite end this time. Okay. My fingers are not the most dexterous, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't do well with tiny, tiny stuff. All right, I'm going to use a toothpick. So I'm going to just take it and set it on the side of it and poke it with a toothpick and push it through. There we go. Got it. Okay. Now, pull that down, but leave it big enough that you can just, like, you know, pull it over her. So I'm just going to slip it around her like that. And then I can pull it tight to where I need it to be and know how, you know, where to knot it at. Okay, so that's where I want to knot it at. But I'm not going to do that until I make sure that everything is straight. And I can see here that it isn't. So I'm going to adjust that. Okay, because I want my ribbon to be straight. All right, and now I can pull tight and make my knot. Okay, and one more time I'm going to pull it tight before I actually knot it, hold it down, and then I'm going to bring my knot up to it, like that. Okay, now you'll have some play in there. Don't worry about that because we'll stick a little glue behind it, but you want that knot, you know, back in there. And I'm going to double knot just to make sure. know. I never understood why you couldn't wear white after Labor Day either. I do. I go against trends, but then again, I've never been one to really stick to trends. I would not make a good Southern belle, let's put it that way, because I would break the rules. Okay, so I've cut that off now after I've knotted it twice. And now I'm going to go into the side of it and make sure that I can tuck that knot underneath. And I'm just going to take a tad bit of glue from the glue gun and stick that down so that that doesn't stick out and show. Okay? And that's all I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in the center. So I slid it to the center, and now I want to secure it. So again, I would use a liquid glue, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to put just a little bit of glue from the glue gun and stick that down, because otherwise it will take too long. Glue strings everywhere. Okay, so that's on there pretty good. Like I said, I would use regular glue if you're doing this at home and let it really dry and secure well on there. And so that's what we have. Okay, so that's our belt, waistband, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and you can play with it and adjust it, you know, because it does stretch a little bit. And then the next thing is I'm just going to attach this right here. Now, you could put a bow behind it if you wanted to. I didn't do that on the last one. Let's see. If we put a blue bow, just a small one, let's see what that looks like. Now, I'm going to demonstrate for you because people have asked me before how you make bows. Okay, take your ribbon, fold it in, you know, in half just a little bit. Take the other and fold it towards the same direction. You want two rabbit ears, basically. Okay, cross them over, tuck one behind into the hole, pull, and then you have a perfect bow. You just have to adjust your lengths. There you go. Both your strings hang down to the same direction. Okay, easiest way to make a bow. All right, so I'm going to make this smaller. Excuse me, I'm out of screenshot. And to do that, you just got to keep pulling and readjusting to get, because it will loosen if you, when you pull. So I'm just going to do that little bit there and see how that looks. So if we put, and of course I would cut off, you know, these strings, but we could put a bow there and then put the metal piece on top. What do you think? I don't particularly love it, but it is an option for you if you want to do it. Just letting you know. Okay, again, I would glue and wait for it to dry, but for the sake of this, I'm going to put just a tiny bit of glue, and I'll go back later and glue it. Okay, and I'm going to put that right where that dip is. Okay, so that's what we have so far. All right, I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to go back now to our inside parts. Okay, so in your kit, you will get baker's twine, and that's what I'm going to use to wrap around this. Now, for this, using a glue gun obviously isn't going to matter because no one's going to see the back. So I'm just going to stick that on there. And then you just start wrapping. Okay, so I've come to the end, and since I made mine pretty tight, I've got a little odd end here. And I'm going to just hold that and readjust my threads so they cover the whole thing. Okay, And now I'm just going to take this across the back and glue it, because nobody's going to see that back part. And it's not enough to cut off and keep, so I'm just going to glue it down. Okay, so that is our little bobbin. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. Now, if you remember, we painted this. We used the Distress ink to paint the black, and then we used the gold and silver paints to paint the rest of it. So now what I want to do is make it shiny like the sewing machines were. So I have a big embossing, you know, the clear embossing, and it's huge. So I can just stick this on here and push it down all over it. Get it good and wet. And I can see there where I missed some spots. So I'm just going to play around, make sure I get it all covered. Okay. Yeah, I can still see spots where I didn't get it. So. Okay, there we go. I think I got it all now. No, there's a spot. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to use UT, which for any of you that don't know what UT is, it's Ultra Thick Embossing Enamel. UTEE. That's what it stands for. I have one of each, but my daughter wasn't a frilly, girly girl either. I think she took after me. Can you hand me a piece of white paper, Paul? All right, sorry guys, got my vodka in hand, and I need a drink. Okay. So you want to lay this either in a tray or on a piece of paper, obviously. And then you just like you're embossing anything else, you just put it on there. Okay? And I'll lift it up so you can see. Now, this beauty is a little bit thicker grain. Can you see that? It's a thicker grain than what your regular embossing stuff is. Okay? So I'm going to lift that up. Yeah, and I can see where I didn't get it embossed enough. So I'm going to wipe this off as best I can. And for some reason that, maybe it needs more embossing fluid. Oh no, it shouldn't. It's pretty juicy when I touch it. But I'm going to try that again. I'm going to try this again. Sorry, that is my phone. Somebody obviously doesn't realize I'm in class. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside now. And don't, I want to try not to spill it. And I'm going to heat this up. Okay, now the great thing about UD is that while it's still hot, you can add more to it and do another layer if you do it quickly. So I'm going to lift this up real quickly. And I don't have time to mess with doing that. So I'm just going to sprinkle some more on. And it'll stick right to itself. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch on there. Where'd my toothpick go? There it is. Okay, pick it up. And we're going to reheat. And I obviously wasn't fast enough, so I only have a little bit, so I will add more in a second. But once you heat it, it will melt again, so that's a good thing. And this is a fairly large piece, so you have to really move fast. Okay, I'm just going to dump it upside down, right into it. Okay, so now I can give it another full coat, and it should be nice and shiny. And you can do as many coats as you want. I think I'm going to stop at 2 because that should probably be enough for my purposes. Okay, that's looking pretty good. All right, now while that cools for a second, I am going to pour this back in here. And as you see, I ended up, you know, I really hardly used any. You can see from the side of the jar. Even though it looked like I was dumping a ton in, it's almost full. Okay. This isn't completely dry, but I'm going to lift it up so you can see how nice and shiny that Yudi makes it. So now it looks more like what the Singer machines look like, that really highly shiny metal. Okay, setting that aside. Now I'm gonna clean my mat real quick. This cleans just like the Tim Holtz ones, you know, with water, but it is rubber kind of. I don't know how to explain it, but so things do stick to it more while you're working. Okay, now again, at this point, I would have done the same to like this end of the scissors with the Yudi if I were adding the scissors tonight, but because I am short one, I am not going to do that tonight. But I will show you the two side by side so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so we're almost done. And is this dry? Yep, I think so. Okay, so I'm going to come in here with my sewing machine and I'm going to attach it to the bottom. And again, I am going to use my glue gun on this. I'm going to attach it to the bottom and to the stick part. So I'm going to put some glue here and here. I'm not really sure how I want to lay it in there, so I'm just going to put some across it. Because I think that I'm going to want it off center just slightly. There we go. Okay. I'm going to need to put just a tad on the bottom to hold it still. There we go. Okay, and then last time I had the bobbin laying like this across it, and then I had the scissors. Is that right? No, I had the bobbin straight up and down, and then I had the scissors at an angle. And I'm just going to repeat that. So on this, you're going to put it across the bottom of your, and come in at it at an angle and push it forward so that your glue doesn't show much. Okay, and you gotta hold that for a second until it dries. And then you're gonna rotate it slightly and put just a tad on the side so that it holds that. Otherwise it will flop over. Okay, did everybody see what I was saying? Does it ever melt? Does what ever melt? The Yudi? No, it's just like regular embossing powder. It's just thicker grains, basically. And it doesn't melt unless it's heated. And, I mean, it has to be really heated. So just regular heat from your house shouldn't melt it. Unless you have it, like, you know, 120 20 degrees or something. Okay, so we have that's the inside. And like I said, I will put the scissors across here later. But that is our project. Now, I do want to tell you about one little trick. And you know that glue guns always leave glue strings behind. I can see some kind of everywhere. So I'm just going to turn my glue gun on, my heat gun on, and I'm just going to, you know, randomly go over here wherever I can kind of see a glue string, and it will melt it and shrink it. Okay? So just doing that to make sure I don't have any strings. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to adjust the camera again. So, oh, forgot. We have to add her necklace, which also comes in your kit. So I'm going to just add that on, and all you have to do is lay it over the top. And you'll see that in a second. Okay, I'm going to switch my camera again. Bear with me. And I will put them side by side so you can see both colors. Oh, this one lost her necklace. I don't know what I did with it, but anyway, you'll get the idea. Okay, here we go. How about this one? Well, sorry guys, that's the best it's going to get. But you can kind of see, one is, I'll do a close-up with the lights on in a second, but this one on the left here, this one with the scissors, that's the champagne colored one. And it has champagne lace, and it has mushroom and brown, and then champagne lace up here as well. And that one, you see, I did not beauty that one. It's duller. And I kept the inside, the newspaper. I didn't paint it or do anything because I wanted it to be, you know, that more creamy tones. Okay. And it is different paper. And you can see that on the website. So that's that one. And then we have this one. And on this one, you see the shininess really added to that, I think, on the sewing machine. And that's the brown and the queen blue. Okay. All right, let me turn the light on, and I'll do some close-ups so you can kind of see it. All right, so close-up, we've got the inside of the blue and brown one, sans the scissors, which will be there later. Okay, and there's the blue lace. You can see where we edged it. Okay, and her brown overskirt flapper thing. Okay, and on this one, we have the brown and the mushroom, different paper, so they're a little creamier, and the golden lace on the top. I hope you can see that. It's kind of hard in the... It's really hard when you know, to get lights that will work well. And then you've got the champagne dyed lace and her waistband. And I actually made this waistband a little bit wider because I had the paper adjusted differently. And I left this dress backless, where this one I put it back on. See the difference? So you could do either one. Okay? So that is that, and that's the duller close-up. And I also used twine on this instead of baker's twine. Or I mean jute instead of baker's twine. All right. And that is our dress form kits. All right. I really appreciate everyone coming to join us tonight. And I want to thank all our new fans on the Gone Artsy page. It's been growing lately, and we're just thrilled about that. On Monday night, this coming Monday night, it will be Marianne's turn, DT Marianne, and she will be doing her class same time, 7 p.m. Central. And then on Tuesday night, Rhonda will be back, and she will be introducing our new kit for the end of September and October. So you won't want to miss that. It's going to be a fun kit, and it is a lot less expensive than this one. This one was a very special, very limited edition kit. So we only did a few, but we'll have 10, or I think it's 10 of the other ones. Thank you. All right, and the other 2 videos are up and loaded on our Gone Artsy YouTube channel. So if you bought a dress form, be sure to check those out so you have all of your measurements and that sort of stuff. This one will be edited and up by tomorrow, and I appreciate you all coming. Don't forget to stop by the challenge page. We have a new challenge starting fairly soon, so you want to get those back to school projects in there. All right, thank you guys. Have a great night.